If I had like 3 or 4 arms,
you'd be awesome.
I can hold the lights up with one arm, and
it's a pretty good spot for the lighting, though.
Oh yeah. Like, and over at O'Nell's booth, they were getting natural light in the morning. Neat stuff looked heavenly.
Yeah?
He had just light beaming off his face. Anyway, I guess our interview kind of just started.
Yeah, that's usually how we do these things.
4 arms, yeah. I'm here with Phil Reed, who I have podcasted with once, and I really got to podcast with again because
I'm happy to.
That was the best podcast for a Kickstarter ever. We talked about the Kickstarter for about 20 minutes and then just talked for another 40 minutes.
Yeah, manufacturing a lot.
It's a fantastic excuse to just have a chat on recording.
Sounds fun.
Which technically I guess this is, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of your projects and then a little bit about some projects you're connected to.
Okay.
See where it goes from there. First up, Transforming Collections.
Yes.
That was your first Kickstarter for basically a coffee table book. And this one was based on third-party transforming robot items.
Yes.
Which is my long-winded way of saying it, so as I'm not dropping any TMs. Now that has released, and I thought it came out pretty well. The hardcover binding really brought it together, made it a coffee table book.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. Same as increasing the page count up to 80 pages.
Yeah.
And I think the printer did a great job with the files. The colors look good. I mean, I went with a heavy stock paper. Yeah. I'm happy with it.
No, it feels like a book I could throw on a coffee table, like, just put some cups down, point at it, hey, check that out.
Yeah.
And you've got a couple, it seems like you moved on from just making it a backer item to being able to actually provide some for sale here and there, like on
a couple retailers contacted me and asked, like, hey, how can I get some of these to sell? So I set that up. I'm running a project now for a sequel, and for people who missed out on the first one, there's a way to get both books.
Yeah.
So.
And that sequel is Transforming Expectations.
Yes.
And that's going on right now as of this recording.
It's happening right now. It has something like 8 more days and then it ends. I'm hoping it makes the goal. It's getting close.
Yeah, I hope so too. I backed it. In fact, I backed it pretty much entirely based on the quality of the first one. Because I mean, as someone online who owns lots of those toys, it's easy. I think it's easy for people to be in a position to say, why do I need a photo book of toys I already have? I think we talked about this on the podcast we recorded. And it is the coffee table book nature of it. It's less about being an essential volume of information, more so about being a cool representation of something you can just show to somebody and say, these are some cool things I like.
You'd rather have your friends touch the book than your toys.
Exactly.
I mean,
some of them
they're
going
to break the toys. Yeah. The book's way cheaper than almost any third-party toy.
Yeah, and if you have friends who can break a book by reading it, you really don't want them playing with toys. Like, buddy, it's a hardcover. Why are you folding it back like that? Like,
it's not a magazine.
That's how I read my books when I'm on the toilet. Get off the toilet! So, Transforming Expectations seems like it's going well. Have you hit anything like with page count increase or with anything like that?
No, right now it's just going to be the stock 80 pages, same as the first one, physically exact same size, all new toys.
Excellent. And I've seen a lot of your photos. One thing that you've been doing really well, and I think as an example of one of the few concrete Kickstarter rules one could cite, or crowdsourcing rules, is you're providing really great backer updates of just, here are photos I'm taking for the book.
Here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yes. And I haven't done an update yet, but I did line up an interview with the team at Repro Labels.
Excellent.
So there's going to be like a 4 or 5 page section in there showing toys that have been modified with their labels, and we'll talk about their process, how they choose which toys to do labels for.
And Repro Labels are great people. I've been dealing with them. They come to a lot of Canadian conventions.
Okay.
I've been dealing with them for years. They are fantastic. Class acts.
So far, they've been really nice.
Excellent. And those interviews that you got in the first book, I meant to add, that was a great addition for everything I just said about it being more about something you can show your buddies. That stuff was adding some kind of vital informational content as well of talking to the guys who work on these things, who often keep a bit of a low profile.
And somebody else I've got lined up for the next book is Echo, who's doing the unofficial Bruticus upgrade kit.
Oh, awesome.
So we're talking about that. There's an interview in there with him. It's going to have photos of the kit. We're going to do some of the early renders and art and things like that. So
one of the cool things about that project in particular is that, that began as a Shapeways project, which he was prototyping in Lego. And the whole development of that project is pretty much chronicled in a discussion thread.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's so rare to see the front to back development of a toy in any form, let alone
see the sausage made.
Yeah,
I love that part of things.
Like I was posting in the reveal thread about the production version, that because I've talked about on the podcast how I'd love to see just a book about how toys are made, like Transformers. if someone was just to pull key posts out of Echo's thread and just like assemble them into a document of some kind, I'm like, bundle that with a toy, I'll read it.
Yep, got it.
That's great, because I'm sure Echo can offer some great thoughts on the Shapeways side of prototyping as well.
Yeah, and also discussing the whole leap from a Shapeways project to hooking up with a manufacturer and how that went and how it works out in the end.
And in the case of Echo also did it all on Echo's terms.
Yes.
Like it was because there have been a run of companies showing off things. I don't think any have been released yet, but they're like, hey, we're making this, and their picture of what they're making is a picture of someone else's Shapeways
Somebody's
design.
Shapeways project.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of that.
Which has led to some debates. I mean, I'm not going to editorialize too much. My own view on it is, I mean, they are all referencing someone else's IP, but someone did the work on the Shapeways project. I think it's skeevy to pull the model.
There's like degrees of copyright law where things get bizarre, and some of those go to just outright violation.
Yeah.
But a good number of the third-party toys really like just ride that edge there, where I don't want to get into the legal fight there.
Yeah, but
and Hasbro obviously doesn't want to get into the legal fight there.
When people come up with quote unquote original design, as in they aren't making a cast of someone else's toy.
Yeah,
I'm more okay with that than ordering a Shapeways kit and making a resin mold of it.
Or when somebody takes a Hasbro figure, dismantles it, makes a mold, and just I'm with you there. And some of my favorite are actually the upgrade kits, like the add-ons, because those really feel to me like the third-party car add-on market.
Yeah.
Where, hey, I got some awesome new headlights for my Corvette or whatever. I mean, like the Cuphead or the kit for make the Gold Bug.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that I just love, and that's part of why I'm excited talking with Echo about his add-on for the Hasbro Bruticus.
Yeah.
Because that I think is really creative. I mean, making an original figure is amazing, but finding a way to turn a Hasbro toy to be even more like classic or more like the source material, that's cool. I like that.
And Echo really hit, I think, like a plateau on that project by also putting the cherry on top of, and it turns into a trailer.
Yeah, it turns into a trailer for Onslaught, which he needs.
Yeah. And I like that stuff the most because it's thinking in terms of Transformers, where one of the keynotes is often we got to keep all the accessories contained on both modes in some way.
Yeah, like the Junkion upgrades, they don't stay on the toy if you transform it.
Yeah.
I mean, once you snap all that stuff on, you're kind of done. It looks great.
Yeah.
But you're right, it kind of takes away part of what makes Transformers what they are.
I'm actually going to be taking a look at one of those pretty soon, finally.
Oh, I've got 3 of them. They're nice.
Yeah.
They feel good. They're durable. They look great. But it's just, I wish they'd transform. And I keep wishing somebody, please, somebody out there, make me a sidecar for my Junkion where the sidecar transforms into parts to like bulk him up, give him these huge shoulder pads, give him this massive gun. He needs a sidecar. Get on it now. Now.
Please.
No, please, do it.
I'm the polite one. I'm the good cop. You want me to get Phil Reed on your ass?
That's right.
He's the bad cop. He's gonna flip a table over. He's gonna shove a chair on the floor. So transforming expectations. I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out, and seeing some more, I would call, legitimization of the unofficial transforming robot scene is also just something that I really enjoy.
I feel like I'm trying to document something that may never happen again, and I don't know how long it's going to last.
Well, I mean, you asked me 5 years ago if in 2013 the glass ceiling will still be there. I'd say, oh no, it must have broken by then, and it hasn't.
Yeah, we haven't found the ceiling. Yeah. My fear isn't so much legal action destroying things as saturation.
That is definitely happening.
That is my biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't suffer it myself because at the end of the day, I get I nerd out over just engineering porn, basically. Like, something I think does something cool, I'll think that's awesome. But I do see the fatigue, especially, I mean, the easy one is combiner fatigue.
Yeah.
One third party pulled off a pretty cool Devastator, that being TFC's Hercules.
Oh, I love the Hercules.
And then, Mach-A Toys made a really cool, more G1 looking, more like modern aesthetic Devastator.
Right.
Now people are doing their other versions of combiners. There's 3 guys doing a Predaking.
I thought a 4th was announced.
No, it's 3. It's Mastermind, Unique Toys, and TFC are doing Predaking.
Are you sure there's not a 4th?
Pretty sure it's those 3. There is
Mastermind.
Yeah.
TFC.
and unique toys.
Unique toys. Are you sure there's not a? I have to go.
There were
I'll look
so
at
many
the
of them
internet.
bouncing around that it became confusing for a bit.
Everything's
But
confusing.
I know the combiner fatigue hit a peak for some people when Warbitron were like, look, we're doing a Bruticus.
But it looks awesome.
And that's where I totally could see the symptom of saturation at its worst,
Right.
where this is a really cool looking toy, but people are also sick of combiners and sick of Bruticus to a degree, like in the general Joe public.
No, you can't be sick of Bruticus. Bruticus is awesome.
I mean, I'm not going to put words in people's mouths.
I will.
But yeah, do it. Well, like I said, I'm the good
Get
cop.
on there.
Phil's going to come in with a nightstick. It just
But what I don't understand is how we haven't tapped into things like Pretenders. I mean, somebody creating like a vinyl figure that I can snap Thunderwing into or something.
that is exactly where I want to. Because
How is that not happening? Or Action Masters? Like, how has somebody not looked at the Action Master Bumblebee and said, hey, I'm going to do a trailer for my Classics Bumblebee that's a blue helicopter pack.
Yeah, well,
I mean, just, there's so many things I have in mind. Where are my Terracons?
And that's where, with combiner fatigue, I feel like I don't really agree with it, but I kind of do, because so many companies, when they want to do a big project that gets attention, 9 times out of 10 it's a combiner. And I'm sitting there going like my personal championing is, where are my 2 Duocons?
Where's my Scrounge?
Yeah, where's Scrounge?
Seriously, where is my Scrounge? How do we, what's it been, 26 years since that comic came out?
Yeah.
Where the hell's my Scrounge?
And to me, a combining team of like 5 robots, all with alt modes and a combined mode, must be a much, I feel like some companies must be hurting themselves trying to focus on that enormous goal rather than, for instance, something as simple as a nicely done version of Scrounge. A little dude, he moves around, he kind of turns into a wheel.
Kind of a wheel.
Yeah, kind of, like you don't even have to make him look like a convincing wheel.
It's not even a good wheel.
No, and he just falls in the smelting pit, and man, what a sad story.
Oh, poor guy.
But yeah, with third-party toys, there's so much, brand, quote-unquote brand loyalty to certain
Right.
companies. Pundits having real kind of violent opinion clashes. Stuff like a proper documented photo book. Stuff like thinking about or interviewing the people who work on these things, I feel is what third-party toys need to, at least on the fan side, not kind of start consuming themselves.
Okay.
And kind of keep things constructive and
Right.
Make it a thinking toy. Like third-party toys are so focused towards the older collectors. I feel like we almost have to shed a little bit of the kids' side of how we look at toys almost, and like think a bit more intelligently about them, and not just about, no, my company is doing Predaking. Your 2 companies, I hate them now because this is my Predaking. I'm on team this Predaking.
I hate them all because now I have to get 3 Predakings.
Yeah, where
You're
are my
making me cry.
Terracons?
Where are my Terracons? Seriously.
Anyway, yeah, that's transforming expectations. We are tangenting hardcore, and
We usually do.
I've only hit 2 out of 3 bullet points.
Okay.
I have a third bullet
What's
point.
number 3?
Number 3 is a little bit more on the indie side.
Okay.
But now I was talking to you about this before. Now you've come up. Your name's come up in a whole bunch of things I look at. Now I got into Glyos.
Okay.
And you've had your hands in some Glyos stuff. You've been involved here and there with
It's fun.
Getting the word out, and you're a really big proponent of it. You've run the Glyos weeks on Battle Grip,
Yep.
which I've linked to a lot of people as information sources on this
Thank
stuff.
you.
And then I'm backing the Gothatropolis Ravens. And after the thing's over, a couple weeks, one of the updates they posted is, we just want to thank our friend Phil Reed, who helped us out with getting this Kickstarter sorted out. And I'm like, man, you have a lot of involvement with some of these folks who are involved in the quote-unquote indie toy
Right.
scene. So,
Well,
looking at all
it's
that,
a tiny world. I mean, the Horsemen contacted me months and months before they ran their project.
Yeah.
We talked about Kickstarter. I ended up going out to their office. We sat down for an afternoon, talked through the project, like what can we do, what rewards should there be, what should the goal be. That was one of the big ones. I mean, crunching all the numbers, trying to find the best way for them to achieve their goal and not fail, because it was very important to me that they succeed, because there hasn't been a really huge successful toy Kickstarter project, and I think we need 4 or 5 of those to build a nice strong foundation for somebody to come in and do just an incredible, blow us away. I mean, what I want to see is Mattel or Hasbro take a shot at it. Pick some obscure weird line where Mask. All right, you keep saying you want Mask. Here's your chance, fans. Prove it.
Yeah.
This is the goal. This is your chance. Do it.
Yeah, prove that the crowdsourced model for toy development can work. Because toy development, some people still don't know, it is not just an overnight process. let's take like Transformers are complicated toys, so it's a bit of a weird example. But like any Transformer toy that is like $10 or more has a good 2 years of development behind it. And even normal just action figures have months and months, if not years, of development behind them. And so I'm sure like the big companies look at crowdsourcing and some of the attitudes towards something that is, in the bigger scheme, like Kickstarter, I feel is still kind of in its infancy, despite being a few years old. And I'm sure they look at that thinking like, well, people kind of want an immediate turnaround. Crowdsourcing must.
I don't think people want immediate turnaround. I think that what they want is constant and open communication.
Yeah.
They want to know what's happening. I mean, if you tell them up front, look, Hasbro, let's say just theoretically, Hasbro steps in and says, we are doing Mask as a Kickstarter project. We're going to start with Thunderhawk. It's because they already did Matt Tracker for G.I. Joe. We're going to do a Thunderhawk, exact same scale. All you guys with Matt Tracker, here's your chance. And we say up front, it's going to be 26 months from when the project closes until we deliver the toys.
Yeah.
And just go through the whole process of prototyping, the development. I mean, show us videos in the factory of like the tooling happening. I think people would get really excited and understand, hey, I went into this knowing it's a 2-year process, but I get to watch the entire process as it plays out. That's exciting. That's fun.
And I'm sure like if guys like the Four Horsemen, guys who are on a more indie side where there aren't so many stockholders, for instance, involved, there aren't retailers involved, I'm sure that can allow someone like Hasbro to both have the confidence and give the confidence to those other entities involved in their process. Show them like it's okay to let the people in on some of how things work. Because I feel like in the big toy industry, it's more open now than it has been before. But there's still a little bit of a level of like, well, we don't want to say too much.
There's some mystery,
and it seems like a lot of it is kind of driven by, like, some of it is old-time thinking, but some of it is also, we have shareholders who might get mad if they know that we are saying stuff about our process, because they might say, oh, well, how do we know that?
Trade secrets or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of these factories work with so many different companies. In the manufacturing side, I don't see many trade secrets.
Yeah.
And I think they should be upfront and tell people, look, just to tool this thing up, just the steel is like $150,000 for Thunderhawk or something. I don't know. That would be educational, and I think people would better understand why toys cost what they cost today. Like you look at Matty Collector and their Masters Universe line, and people complain about the price and things like that. They don't know what it costs just to get ready to shoot plastic.
Yeah.
And I think toy companies should be a little more open about that, and I think the collectors and the fans would support them more.
Well, I especially with Matty Collector, who I've criticized now and then how things have gone with them, and I try to come at it from as educated a viewpoint as I can.
Right.
But I agree with you. I think that the notion of the trade secret, and this is maybe my own viewpoint, I feel like that notion is kind of becoming outmoded in 2013. Like in many respects, like just the trade secret in manufacturing is kind of like, what do we gain by having it?
One of the best real-world examples that I have of that is I contacted a game company. This was 5-6 years ago, and said, hey, I'm trying to look at some new manufacturers. I want to find some new factories. Who are you using? Because I'd like to talk to them. And I was told, oh, we don't share that information. Trade secret. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. That's your decision. Less than 2 months later, I get factory samples, like examples of their work. This is the kind of things we make for that exact same company from the factory they use. So the world's too tiny these days.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are some trade secrets, but I printed my book at this whatever. Like, I printed my book at Taylor Printing in Dallas. You should definitely talk to them because the price was awesome for the quality. At Steve Jackson Games, we make it a policy of if somebody asks, hey, who are you using? We give them our printer information. I constantly, almost every week, am sending an email response to somebody, copying in my factory rep to say, this is who I work with. They do great work for us, because I feel I want our factories to have business and be strong, because I want them secure, so when I need to go print something or make something, they're there and still doing the business, and they're doing such incredible work for me. I want to reward them. I want to share their information. I mean, I've publicly said we work with Grand Prix International. They're out of Massachusetts. I go up to their office about once or twice a year. I've been over to China now a few times to the factories. Trade secrets, they're kind of stupid these days.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, like, whenever I think about this stuff, I am still I'm outside the industry. I look at it a lot. I try to process as much information about it as I can to offer an educated speculation on what's going on.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, I feel like there's this wall where some people in the industry will say, well, you can't say it because you don't really know how it is. And I kind of say, like, well, then tell me.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how it is because I want to have this
me.
conversation. If I'm wrong, I want to know how I'm wrong.
You're making me want to get with the Horsemen and Matt Dowdy and all these guys and do a Kickstarter project to create a book about how toys are made.
I mean, I would love that because
I would.
On the Transformers
you're making
side,
me want that.
On the Transformers side, the Masterpiece Sideswipe, the developers of that, they put out videos on Takara Tomi's YouTube page of like developer commentary on their toy. And to me, that was delicious candy because I'm like,
gorgeous.
Because I didn't appreciate things like Sideswipe's chest shape until in the commentary they said we had a huge problem trying to maintain the hood shape of the proper car and the animation model chest shape of Sideswipe. I'm like, these are the things we need to know to appreciate the items we're getting, or with just an off-the-shelf toy, knowing the development cycle, knowing the tooling costs. Some have argued that knowing too much can be damaging. I agree to a certain point.
I don't think we're anywhere near knowing too much.
Exactly, because I mean, I'm not saying, oh, don't tell people the hard. Don't give out spreadsheets of your hard numbers, but you know, just throw out a lump sum of like approximately say 50 to 100,000 to tool X toy, at least. And a lot of fans I find are oddly opposed to caring about numbers like this, but I think that seeding that information out there will make people start caring even if they don't right now.
I think people need to know it because then they can really understand why something costs what it does, and when they're going to buy a toy or a book or anything like that, they know better, like, this is where my money is going. Yeah. This company isn't getting wealthy on this. Like, a ton of these guys in the indie scene, a lot of them just break even. Yeah. I mean, it's all love. At the office, we published for our Ogre Kickstarter project. People know we brought in $923,000. 10% went to Amazon and Kickstarter. We posted, I mean, I said right out, the print cost alone, the manufacturing cost alone for the game is $40 per unit.
Yeah.
Then we have to pay our tooling. We have to pay our film charges. We have our in-house job cost to create it. We have to ship it from China to the US. We have to ship it from our offices to the 6,000 or so backers. Like, games everywhere. I mean, and when we sell through distribution, it's $100 retail. We get about 35% of the retail price.
Yeah.
I mean, we've come out and said this on our Kickstarter project because I want the fans to understand just because the project may be almost $1 million doesn't mean we're making money or it's hugely profitable. My best case for this is we break even, but up front, Steve Jackson said he wanted to do a giant gift for the fans. He wanted to take his original game from 1977, do it in a giant size, and basically give it to the industry. We've done that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody's buying it, but when it works out in the end, if it's a break even, I think we've won.
And I mean, all of this said, dialing back slightly to something you said earlier about wanting to see these Kickstarters work.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to my original bullet point, with the way that you're connected to a lot of these recent indie projects or ongoing indie projects, it must be, with the amount of concern you have for seeing this stuff grow and blossom, it must be really interesting to also be able to look at so many projects from a top level of like down into how they work.
Yeah, it's awesome. Last week I spent 3 nights out at dinner and talking in bars and stuff with Jonathan from the Loyal Subjects about his Transformers line and the marketing of the line, what's coming up next. Like, he was showing me pictures of Shrapnel and Jetfire, and we talked about like their costs, what it takes to take it from their concept into the market. And I mean, it's really fun for me to come in from both a toy geek side and a business side and look at companies like that, or sitting down with the guys from Onel to talk Glyos, or the Four Horsemen to talk their projects and figure out, okay, how do we keep it both exciting and relevant to the fans? Like, how do we keep that inner geek strong, but approach it from a business standpoint so people can make money and keep doing it? Because that, in the end of the day, if every project a company does is break even, the company's going to die. I mean, the people working on these, have to eat. They've got to pay for their families. They need cars unless they live in a city that you don't need a car.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I'm a little biased. I'm coming at this as someone who recently became a working video editor, but people who work in what is quote-unquote the arts, right? There's always this weird veneer of like, you're not a real artist if you're trying to do it for a living.
If you want to do it commercially.
And it's kind of like, I mean, I can see, I've seen the artist who is monetizing themselves to a damaging point.
Right.
But you have to be able to discern that from the artist who is trying to make a career out of what they are, not just what they love, but due to the love for it, what they're actually pretty good at.
Yeah.
And something that they do that rewards other people, potentially. And, and this happened with the video game industry with, there's a Kickstarter for a game called Skullgirls. Where they were.
I don't know that one.
Well, they were. It made a little bit of gaming news because they were one of the first gaming. It was an Indiegogo, not a Kickstarter,
okay.
but it was a crowdsource where they were entirely transparent about their costs. And some of the people looking at that stuff, video game fans, were learning about the actual cost of making a video game. They were making a new character for this game,
okay.
And it was like, here's the cost of animation for the character. Here's the cost of designing the character. Here's the cost of the voice work, the music, and how it all just adds up hugely. And so number one, people were learning about it. Number two, some people were still trying to be resistant to it because they were so sure they knew best.
Yep.
In the bubble of, and I mean this not insultingly, but just the bubble of, honestly, ignorance of the process.
Yeah.
And with toys, I worry that might be fostered to a degree as well, as long as we don't know more about how toys are made. And I mean, in 2013, toy collecting is a bit of a different beast than it was in the 90s, even in the early 2000s.
It's more geared toward collectors today.
Yeah.
But in the US, it's nothing compared to like Japan. I was reading somewhere in Japan, like 23 to 25% of the toy market is adult collectors, and in the US, it's like 8 or 9%.
Yeah. I mean, but once upon a time, we were like 5%.
Yeah.
So,
and like Hasbro and Mattel and these companies are looking at, okay, how can we tap more into that adult? That's where sites like Matty Collector come in, or we've got the Fun Pub guys doing the Transformers
the
Club,
subscription service thing.
the subscription, and the G.I. Joe subscription. So they're trying to get those.
And I mean, this is a bit more of like an industry question for you, but looking at all these guys doing, even with the Power Lords kind of prototyping, playing around with the idea of subscription services, and we've seen the ups and downs of subscription services. Do you feel like that's a model that still should be pursued, or do you feel like people, or at least someone, should try thinking around the subscription service model and try something new, try to find another?
What I like best about a really good subscription model service is if it's all inclusive, then the hardcore fans who want the entire line can get it all. That's one of my complaints with Matty Collector.
Absolutely.
Is, oh, I'm going to subscribe to this, and I'm still going to suffer every now and then and have to go through the terrible website, which is better. It is much, much better, but it's still the few times a year I have to use it, I'm like, oh God, do I have to do this?
Well, I mean, and with the recent subscription announcement, one of the things that I found somewhat baffling was putting Too Bad behind the subscription wall, very specifically when, to me, he would be the character requiring some of the most new tooling. And and from my small amount of knowledge that I've tried to collect, new tooling is some of the most expensive stuff you can do.
Oh yeah,
and
steel is expensive.
And you want to maximize use. I mean, clearly it looks like Modulock must be taking some cues from the tooling they've done for Too Bad.
Oh, I'm sure they're using. But what I don't understand, Too Bad is a great example of this. How is it Too Bad they're like, oh, there's going to be no day of sale figures, but other figures there will be.
Yeah,
and so they're running fewer Too Bad intentionally, or they're running more of others. I mean, I don't understand. I would think if they know Too Bad's a popular character, it's like, oh, and we should run an extra 1,000 units.
And I take that knowledge and I add on to it. Too Bad has so much new tooling for the two heads. Why would you not be running the most of that?
Seriously.
And I was on Twitter saying this, like I knew I wouldn't get any replies, but I was just bandying this on Twitter, like I cannot fathom the logic of this reasoning. I can't
see is it's a marketing maneuver to get people to subscribe.
And that's where I had my criticism, where I was feeling like either I can't understand what you're saying, or what you're saying is really being twisted in a marketing sense, almost insultingly.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels to me like they're using Too Bad to convince some percentage of the people to go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah, and there's a level of
maybe
using.
I'm wrong. Maybe I don't understand their process.
And I'm a spectator. I'm speculating.
Yeah, I'm totally speculating.
And to me, just it felt like I'm being taken kind of for a fool, given the amount of knowledge that is there, where it's like, they're just telling me, oh, he's going to be behind the description wall, and I'm saying, but why?
Yeah, why?
You can't just say that. You got to tell me why.
How can they say it now?
Yeah.
When it's a figure next year, it's too late to up the run?
And when it's a figure that they have a painted prototype of. I mean, I know that you don't just have a painted prototype. There's a certain amount of pre-production that goes into that.
Something happens.
And so...
China magic.
Yeah. they snap their chopsticks and it just pops up out of thin air. I'm half Chinese, I'm allowed to say that. Yeah.
I've been to China, so I can laugh at it.
But yeah, and I hate to harp on a common target, but I mean from what I was watching, that was my big criticism an easy criticism of a subscription model that's going on right now.
Well, and then there's the all sold out in like 2 minutes, and then Black Friday rolls around, and it's like, how many hundreds are they selling at like
big
half
lots?
The cost or something? Oh yeah, and the big lots thing.
I mean, and the big lots, I know there was a post made explaining that came about due to reissue moldings or reissue runs that were done. Nonetheless, like that didn't look good.
No, that didn't look good at all.
And I think that needed a much more sugary, sweet touch on the PR end.
I don't understand how Mattel, as a $6 billion a year business, can't overrun by 1,500, 2,000 units or something, and just leave it in the store.
Yeah.
Just leave it in the store. I mean, at this point in that line's life, who's going to come on as a new collector?
Yeah.
It's
when they were literally saying
all these I can't get anymore.
We're in the final. They basically said we are in the final year or two of this line because we are literally running out of characters. And I'm like, that's a great marketing move if that's all you said.
Right.
But it's all these other things that make me just start questioning things. And I mean, people bring up Rio Blast all the time. I saw all these discussions about I don't remember his name, the Egyptian-looking dude.
Oh yeah.
And knowing that there is a fan working in on all that, Scott Neatlick, I'm kind of like. As an outsider, I feel like there's so much nebulous communication, the communication being clear, but the ties being nebulous, the strings holding everything together being so nebulous. It's so weird to me, which is also why I really want to try to interview him, because I'd like to just talk to him for a bit and figure some stuff out. But,
Mattel, please contact.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've done a podcast with Emiliano Santalucia. Maybe they don't want to talk to me now.
His art's gorgeous.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Oh, I love it.
Have you the stuff he's doing for Transformers?
I know. It's
and
awesome.
The number of Transformers he's involved with. And I love that he's, to me, I mean, this is a bit of a tangent. We don't do that very often.
So we tangent the tangent.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
For the sake of Santa
Eventually we'll work back to whatever.
Power Lords.
But
I feel like he and some other artists are making big strides in their own way of being artists who are, it feels like actively asking for permission to share some of the design work they've done on toys, in part for their portfolios, but also in part to inform the fan of this is part of the process.
It's more sausage making.
Yeah, it's
we need
delicious.
that book. I've got to talk to these guys and we'll figure it out.
But I guess coming back to Power Lords, Corn Boy of the Four Horsemen, you've had a great launch of. Sorry, wrong interview.
They had a great launch. I waved my arms and talked a lot, and then they went out and they just blew it away. I mean, they really take all the credit for that, because all I did was talk.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of great launches at O'Nell's table. I always get the wrong verb in there, but the Robo Force.
Oh, yes.
That Dr. Kent showed up with several bags of unpainted versions of, and sold at the unbelievably nominal price of $15.
I told him it's too cheap. But I tell these guys that all the time, because I'm coming from the business side and they're coming from the, oh my God, we're giant toy nerd side. Well, I'm trying to balance the line, but I mean, and part of it's hard for me at times because like I wanted to talk RoboForce months before it was announced, because I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Back in May, I went out and visited Matt at his house and his family, and we were playing with the prototype for Max, and I mean, it's an incredible, the amount of plastic alone is insane. It should be a $25 figure unpainted.
Well, someone handed me the bag.
It's heavy.
And then told me, oh, that's $15. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. How much is this? Oh, really? And then I messed with a friend of mine's before I picked up mine. It's also some of the most solid Blios system plastic I've ever felt. Like it's double dense.
And there's so many secrets hidden inside the design. You start popping it apart.
So, I mean, stemming from that, I guess one of my questions for you is what's some of the most exciting stuff you've seen here at New York Comic Con? I mean, surely the O'Nell table, there's a bunch of stuff there.
So much fun stuff. I wish I had enough intelligence to know the name, but there's somebody near here who has these 3D output cats, like mechanical steampunky cats with LEDs inside. The eyes light up. There's a plate that the side of the head comes off, and you can see inside all the wires and circuits, and they're incredible. And I wish I feel so useless because I cannot tell you who it was.
That's all right.
They're awesome, and you can't have them.
Damn. One of the things that really stuck out to me myself, and I wanted to know if you saw it. Did you see the big wall of iron, the big case of Iron Men?
The metal iron, the die-cast metal?
The company that is psychotic enough to say we're going to release 42 $110 Iron Men in 1 year.
And those are just the 6-inch.
Yeah, I'm ignoring the quarter scales right now.
The quarter scale are like 400 to 600 or something.
Yeah. And that they're all release date 2014. I think that's going to change.
But I think that hurts them.
Oh, it does.
Because if they had only shown like 2, I would have probably pre-ordered both of them. But when they show this giant booth of all, I'm like, that's awesome. I cannot touch that.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, I can maybe pick out 5. And I'm staring at 42 of them. And I'm like, not to say I don't want freedom, but I kind of wish some of these choices were made for me.
Yeah, and I couldn't pick just 1 or 2 and say, I'm going to get these 2 and put them in there. Because then I'd always be... It's kind of like Gentle Giant and their jumbo vintage Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to get the Stormtrooper because I love Stormtroopers. And I get the Stormtrooper. Now I've got like 20-something of them. I mean, I was at Toy Tokyo a few days ago with a bunch of the guys from the office. We go in, we look around. I'll go out when they leave, and they're like, what, you didn't get anything? I'm like, no, they're shipping it to me. Because I got way too much to even carry.
Well, that's why I mean, with example being SH Monster Arts. Beautiful looking toys, but I made the conscious decision of like, you know what? If I walk away from this,
you just do this.
Yeah, if I leave the first 2 alone,
right, and
I hold my hands in the air,
yep,
I can say these are beautiful toys, and I don't need to own them because many people do, and that's a whole huge collection of giant monster toys. I don't have to worry about storing. I don't have to worry about buying.
No, but you still want them because they look incredible.
I got to mess with the 1968 Godzilla
you shouldn't
figure.
have done that.
And I was like, what's the first time I'm playing with a monster? Oh, that's real nice. I need you to take this away from me now. I'm going to sit over here.
Tell me this is bad, please.
Yeah, I need you to tell me everything wrong with it.
I hate toy reviews that tell me how awesome the toy is, and the next thing I know, a line that I managed to say, I'm not going to get into that. I'm like out shopping. I'm like, oh yeah, well this sounds amazing. I've got to... Doom.
Yeah. Well, we've been running for. I'm gonna spook you here. We've been running for about 38 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I talk a lot.
No, I do too.
We're in trouble.
Man, we're
on day 5 of our podcast.
We do not fit in with the new media model of keep it under 5 minutes.
That's true.
But who cares?
What are we talking about?
Toys, pretty cool.
Okay, awesome.
So Transforming Expectations.
That's right.
A Kickstarter.
I have a Kickstarter project for a brand new book. It's got about 8 days to go from now. I think it ends October 21st.
Yeah.
Really early in the morning because I get up too early. So for the rest of the world, it's like October 20th it ends because you guys will be asleep. If you love books and toys, please give me a shot. Give it a chance.
You also are involved with Steve Jackson Games.
Yes, I am Chief Operating Officer of Steve Jackson Games.
And you run BattleGrip.com.
I run BattleGrip.
And you have a Twitter account.
I have a Twitter account. I am Philip J. Reed on Twitter, and you should follow me if you are bored.
All right. One final question. What you have for breakfast?
Matt Downey and I hit deli I love at 36 and 8th, and I had an awesome bagel.
Sweet.
I go to that deli every time I'm in New York. It is so good.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, your copious amount of time.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you later on.
Sounds great.
Thanks.